Bitcoin education can be kind of abstract. We may wonder, how does it actually apply to our real lives? And so that's why I made these really cool tools that I'm excited to demo to you today. All you have to do is go to Daniella.io/tools or click on education in the menu bar on my website, Daniella.io, and then click on tools. And here they are. They all run in your browser. They are all privacy focused. I do not receive anything that you enter into these tools. Nothing is logged, tracked, or sent. Let's start with the purchasing power calculator. This one is actually mentioned in my book, and I'm so glad I got it to work because it's a very powerful tool. So what it does is it helps you understand how your purchasing power has evolved over time in fiat terms and in Bitcoin terms. Fiat being euros, dollars, pesos, whatever currency that you're using, and then Bitcoin being, of course, Bitcoin. The first part of this exercise is to enter your current expenses. So how much are you spending today, yearly or monthly? Just stay consistent. So if you use monthly in the first table, use monthly in the second table, yearly, just don't mix both. So we're going to start with our current costs when it comes to rent or our mortgage. So I have an example here. I'm going to enter $2,000 a month. And as you see, once I enter a number, it gives us the cost in Bitcoin terms at today's price. So everything is super up to date. Utilities $250, groceries $500, transportation $350, and leisure $150. Now, if there's a line that's missing, no worries. You can just click on add custom expense and enter whatever you want here. So let's say phone, for example. We'll put 100. And there we go. So in our example, this person's cost of living today is currently $3,350. And in Bitcoin terms, that comes out to 0.051 Bitcoin. Now we're going to do the second part of the exercise. So we're going to scroll down a bit and you're going to enter your costs from 8 years ago. So imagine, try to go back 8 years. How much were you spending in dollar terms 8 years ago? So for rent, in our example, we have 1,100, utilities 150, groceries 300, transportation 250, leisure 100, and then phone. So in this example, now 8 years ago, this person was spending $1,950 a month to live, but that was 2 Bitcoin back then. So we can see the comparison, but it might be difficult to see or the numbers might not mean much to you. No worries. I added a step 3, which I think is so fun and really cool. All you have to do is click on interpret my results and ta-da! Here you have your Bitcoin purchasing power summary. So 8 years ago, in our example here, we needed 2 Bitcoin to live monthly. Now we only need 0.051 Bitcoin. How is that possible? How is that possible? Because our costs went up in dollar terms. The person was spending $1,950 8 years ago to live monthly, and now they're spending $3,350. So what's actually happening is prices are falling in Bitcoin terms. For real, this isn't some theory, this is actually happening with real numbers. So I explain exactly what that means and why that was happening in the last video I did. It's an hour long, but it's worth watching if you want to understand exactly why Bitcoin is the first global free market where prices fall. This is the demonstration of it actually happening in real life. If you put in your own numbers, you'll see your own experience through this, and I hope it's enlightening. And why does this matter? Well, if you can buy more over time with less money, that's the world upside down. It's Bitcoin. So that's the purchasing power calculator. We're gonna head over to the Bitcoin standard calculator. Now, I made this one for Bitcoiners who have been around for a while. So if you're new to Bitcoin, I would suggest skipping this tool. But if you've been here for a cycle, at least 4 to 8 years, then this one will probably be an interesting deep dive. Now, the reason being, there's a lot of caveats here. There's a lot of things you have to know about Bitcoin already. So it's not really beginner friendly. It's more for advanced. The reason I made this tool is that when we're in Bitcoin for a certain amount of time, we start to really understand what it is and what it means. We might want to start to move more of our time, energy, start living on a Bitcoin standard eventually. But there's a lot of fear around that comes from our systemic programming, what Fiat taught us to believe about money. Everything goes up in cost every year. You have to work harder. You need more money. The Fiat mindset. But Bitcoin's the opposite world. We just saw that with the purchasing power tool. So the goal of this tool is to try to help us, based on our assumptions, to see how much Bitcoin we need to have saved to be able to start moving over to a Bitcoin standard comfortably. So, like I said, there's quite a few assumptions, and that's why I don't recommend this for beginners. So the first part of the tool is you just enter your current annual expenses. In our example, we have 38,000. The annual inflation rate, so here you're going to put in the actual inflation that you're experiencing. Oh, by the way, all of these are based on US dollars. You might have to convert to euros or whatever. Sorry about that. I needed like one currency, and generally we use USD. So just convert things if you need to. But what is the actual inflation rate in your area? Well, I know in the United States it's not 2%, and it's not transitory. So on average, since the 70s, it's been about 11%. So I'm going to put that in our example. Annual lifestyle increase has to do with how much you expect your expenses to go up over time based on whatever's going to happen in your life. So are you going to be traveling more? Are you moving? Are you going to have a family? That kind of stuff. So you can put 0 to whatever number you want. I'll just put 2% in our example. The time horizon is important because the longer the time horizon that you put in the tool, the more the numbers can get a little bit mixed up because of the exponentials. So just keep that in mind when you're using the tool. Like I said, like this isn't financial advice. This isn't perfect. If you have suggestions that you want to send me, let me know. I'm totally open to it. But yeah, I think that's where it kind of breaks down, is like the exponentials, because we can see it in this part. What is your expected Bitcoin CAGR? So the compounded annual growth rate. On average, it's been 45% since the inception of Bitcoin. Do you believe it's going to continue in that way? Do you think it's going to go up more? Is it going to be less? So just put whatever your assumption is. I'm going to put 45 for our example. And then the next two are optional. So are you going to be subjected to taxes if you convert your Bitcoin into fiat currency? If you buy directly in Bitcoin, maybe you won't be subjected to taxes. If you move to a tax-free jurisdiction, maybe you won't also be affected. So I'm going to assume 0% for this one. And then income is also optional. So some people may be able to live off the Bitcoin that they saved, but others may start living off of the Bitcoin they saved and also start making income in Bitcoin. Get rid of your fiat job and start providing value in the first global free market. So let's take an example of 2 million sats. Let's say that's how much we're making. So let's click calculate, and then you'll see the tool will give you approximately how much Bitcoin you need to fund the time horizon that you entered. So in our example here, we would need 2.3 Bitcoin to fund 20 years of expenses. And you can see the total breakdown below the chart. I mean, work in progress. If you feel like there's something else that could be added, or if you see any issues with the numbers, let me know. Super open to it. But I think it's a cool tool for like informative purposes, just to start thinking about that free market and how much life would cost if you actually moved over to a Bitcoin standard. Then we have the life force calculator. We hear a lot about inflation, 2%, even 11%, but how does that actually affect us when it comes to our time? That's what this tool is for. So here we're going to enter our income, whatever it is. Let's say that's our example, how many hours we work annually. So the tool gives you some examples here, but let's just stick with the full time. What is the annual inflation rate? Probably 11% or more. And then the years that we want to project. So I'm going to put 40 because that's how many years people usually work. And then we click calculate to see how many years have been taken from us essentially due to inflation. And yes, it's depressing. In this example, it's 4.4 years. That's a lot. That's a lot of years of our lives that we don't realize are being extracted from us just from inflation. That's not even counting like all the taxes that we pay. And look, yeah, I know it's depressing, but the good news is there is an exit. It's Bitcoin. And that's kind of my call to action here. It's just like, go learn about Bitcoin, go find out why Bitcoin gives you back your time, your energy, space to live in the first global free market. Now, I made a couple other really cool and helpful tools. To be honest, math is not my greatest strength. I'm not very good with numbers. Give me an Excel spreadsheet and I'm super good with that. But I made this one because I was always converting Bitcoin to sats and then I was sometimes getting it wrong. So look, this tool is super practical. All you have to do is enter the Bitcoin amount, because a lot of platforms will give you a number like in Bitcoin, but I want to know the amount in sats. You just come here, enter it, and there you go. You know exactly how many Satoshis your Bitcoin is worth. The next tool that I have here is a USD to sats converter. Because a lot of the platforms will give you the price in Bitcoin instead of giving you sats directly. So I just wanted to enter it here. So for example, let's say the price I want to check is 2,000 US dollars. And so it gives me the amount in sats based on today's exchange rate. And the Bitcoin to fiat converter, honestly, it's just to show how many ridiculous pieces of paper you need in fiat to be able to get one Bitcoin, depending on what currency you're using. So in euros, you need 55,000 pieces of paper essentially. But for the Argentine peso, you need almost 96 million. I don't know, it just seems ridiculous to me, and I think it's an interesting illustration of how fiat money is just printed to infinity. Just lots of pieces of paper. And then the last one is just the Bitcoin pizza index for fun as well. The idea is that the first Bitcoin transaction was 2 pizzas that cost 10,000 Bitcoin back in 2010. And so how much would those 2 pizzas be worth today, had you used 10,000 Bitcoin to buy them? And as of today, it would be worth over $644 million. So just an interesting exercise, because once again, Bitcoin is a free market where prices fall. So if the person had kept their 10,000 Bitcoin from back then, it would have way more purchasing power today. So they'd be able to buy way more pizza or anything else with that same Bitcoin. And if we extrapolate this, I sincerely believe, after all of my research to understand what this is, I seriously believe that you won't need much Bitcoin to live very well in the future because of that free market where prices fall. If you enjoy these tools and calculators, just know that my channel is ad-free, sponsor-free. This is completely self-funded and funded by people like you who enjoy my work and want to provide value for value in the new economy. So if you want to zap me some sats to say thanks, I'd super appreciate that.